Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast boy. Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast boy.
I was getting letters from Harold Wilson. He was writing to me as a fan. I was going up saying hello to the Queen.
Play the game.
It wasn't just sport, it was showbiz.
And your feet playing tricks like a juggler as you weave to the sound of your name.
I didn't want to get away from it because I was part of it, and still am.
Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast boy.
This story traces the transformation of footballers from serfs to superstars in little more than a decade in the swinging 60s.
Play the game. Play the game, boys, play the game.
The players, who are led by Jimmy Hill, chairman of the Professional Footballers Association, demand a freer contract, a bigger wage, and a guaranteed share of transfer fees. At meetings in Birmingham and London, they've said if they don't get what they want, they're prepared to strike. And the Stars have never been so militant or outspoken as they are today.
Now, Jimmy, the union has been negotiating for better conditions ever since there's been a union, and that's 60 years. Now you expect action from the Football League clubs within a month. Do you think that can possibly succeed?
Well, the reason that we're very hopeful is because I think for the first time in that 60 years, we've got all thinking public opinion on our side, and we've also got the 100% backing of the players that we've listened to so far.
It was very unfair. No other profession, as far as I knew in this country, had a restriction on the top. And it was even more unfair in the way that professional footballer's life is a very short one. And in those days, I mean, there are examples of players who played for low salaries ending up on railway lines.
Would you sign those lads?
We were to some degree slaves. There was no freedom. There was a maximum wage. So Stanley Matthews, at the highest level of football, one of the most wonderful players in the world, earned no more than the worst right back in the bottom of the team who played in the 4th division. Hey, that cannot be right. That cannot be right.
Now for some more soccer news that's being made right at this very moment, a transfer. Now the player is Brentford inside forward Billy Dare. His new club is West Ham.
When a player signed for a club, he virtually signed his life away.
Now he's about to sign for 2nd Division West Ham, and his new manager, Mr. Ted Finton, is here to watch him sign on. So let's go into the gymnasium and see the transfer.
Ever since the formation of the Football League, a player could not transfer to another club without his club's permission.
Did you sign just there?
When he did sign, the league imposed a maximum on what he could earn.
And here come the £10.
Yes.
I thought the BBC was the only place who had lots of forms, but still.
Thank you, Billy. Our count is here. 1, 2,
well, now, while Mr. Fenton's counting, I think we can trust him, Mr. Dare.
6,
and I see you've been pretty smartish off the mark. That's the West Ham badge, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Well,
by the 1950s, the system was at breaking point.
Look forward to seeing you at West Ham soon.
Thank you very much.
A free kick with the right foot and another shot with the left is typical of Ford, whose fiery attacking type of football has made him one of the most brilliant centre-forwards in the game.
Many players and clubs colluded in tapping illegal sources of income.
I used to go up with the manager after the match if I'd scored a goal and play snooker. And we'd bet £5. And he never won a game. So that was his way of giving me £5 every goal I scored.
Well, the captain was outside the ground when our coach pulled up. And he said, Roy, we need these points. I said, yeah, I know you do. And he said, how much money you want? I said, well, it's entirely up to you. What you give me, I'll give the players. He said, £300. And a pound was a pound then. I said, yeah, fair enough. Well, we took it a bit easy, like you know. And Johnny Hart, remember him? He was playing like hell. I said, easy, take it easy. We'll have a few bob after the game. Which happened, anyway, that's what happened. And they beat us 2-1. And they survived in the 1st Division. And that was 40 years ago. Amazing, isn't it?
But the biggest problem with the maximum wage was the exodus of stars like John Charles, who left Leeds to play in Italy.
I was getting about £25,000 a year. If you wanted to send your family to the seaside for 3 months or send them to the mountains for a month, you could always afford it.
The maximum wage had to die at some stage. In the end, we'd have lost all of our top-class players to Italy and other places throughout the world who had no maximum wage.
In 1960, the Players' Union voted to strike.
Well, I think they're feeling really of sorrow. I didn't want to be a person involved in stopping football in this country, and nor do I think any of the players in their hearts really want this to happen. But I think the record indicates that they have done everything possible to avoid it.
The union won support from an unexpected quarter.
It was a medieval serf system, and any intelligent serf, and in the Middle Ages, and would have rejected this sort of contract. And I called for a strike on by the international players, the Golden Strike, as I called it. I think I'm the only Conservative Member of Parliament since the war who has ever urged anybody to go on strike.
At the 11th hour, a compromise was reached, and the Football League agreed to abolish the maximum wage.
Is this new 7-point plan a compromise, or has one side won?
I don't think either side has won. I think both sides have won, and I think more than anything else, football has won, and I hope the bloke who wins more than anybody else out of it's going to be the spectator.
The end of the maximum wage ushered in a new era. The first to benefit were stars like the England captain.
Before the maximum wage was lifted, Tommy Trinder was obviously asked for quotes in the paper, and he said, if it was lifted, he said, I would pay Johnny Haynes £100 a week straight away. And of course, like a few days later, the maximum wage lifted, so poor old Tom's lumbered. And I was just called into the boardroom, and that was it.
He wasn't in there a minute, and he came out and he just walked back into the dressing room. And all these lads were looking, really excited about the situation. He took this piece of paper out and he said, "TT," he said, "you're true to your word." He said, "I've just got £100 a week, lads." And he took this piece of paper out, threw it up in the air, and walked out the club. And I'm sitting there like 17 years of age, £100 a week, oh, yes, please, great. So I got called in, sat at the end of the table, and Frank Osborne said to me, "This is going to be the greatest day in your life," he said. "I'm going to give you," he said, £28 a week. And I said, "What? What are you talking about, £28 a week?" I said, "You just paid Ainsley £100 a week." He said, "Well, you're not bloody Johnny Haynes, are you?" He said, "I'll tell you what I'll do." He said, "I'll give you 30. And I said, "Give us a contract." And I signed it.
I bought a car for 35 quid. An old pink thing it was, out of an old, almost like a scrapyard. But it was like my pride and joy, and it was one of those things I was always with a gang of kids, because a lot of the boys I was still going about with weren't sure whether they were going to be villains or not. It was still in a rough area where I come from.
One footballer even proclaimed himself as a beacon of sartorial elegance.
I didn't doff my cap and say, "Thanks very much for letting me have this chance." I had a Lotus Elite, a little sports car at the time, and I had my suits made in Savile Row, waistcoat and a gold fob watch and all that type of thing.
And I looked at him, I thought, I've got to have one of those. So I went round all the pawnbrokers in the East End, and I ended up with about 3 pocket watches and the old gold chains, and I loved it. Then I had to go around buying waistcoats now to wear them, you know. I was really took back. And I was all right until someone burgled my house and nicked a lot of them.
We'd never seen anything like Bobby. I mean, he was something new completely. I mean, he used to come in after the game, where we'd be going down the Fulham Road for a pint at a local pub or something. He'd be off for the weekend to Paris, and he'd have his little attaché case there with his spending money, and was never short of female company. He had a great time.
It was an opening up of the class system. It made me a bit more confident about the future. So then I started to look even into writing, reading a lot more. I met a chap called Gordon Williams, and he used to be a ghostwriter. And he explained to me that he would write this story, you tell me what happened, and we'd have it in the Topical Times or whatever annual it was at the time. And we would get £50, he would get 25 and I would get 25. So he said, if you write it yourself, you get the 50. So I thought, well, I'll cut him out straight away, and invested in a typewriter. Wrote a few short stories, were quite amusing, I think. And as the money got bigger, you then stepped where you hadn't been able to step into before.
Oh, why do you want to make those eyes at me for? If they don't mean what they say, they make me glad, they make me sad.
There was all these knives and forks laid out on the table, you know. I'd never seen so many knives and forks, you know. I felt like putting them in my pocket and taking them home to the house, you know. And I mean, I was really embarrassed because I didn't know what to order. I didn't know what, you know, king prawns were or whatever. I'd never been to a hotel. So before it came up, they brought up a little bowl with a piece of lemon in. And I thought, well, how do you eat these, you know? And like, I saw Ainsley pick them up and sort of peel it off and sort of stick this big prawn in his mouth, you know. And I thought, well, that's not bad, I'll have a bit of that. So I did the same thing, put this big prawn in my mouth. And after about 2 or 3, I was quite dry. So I did no more. I picked up the bowl with the lemon in it and I drank it. And the table literally was in hysterics.
And I'm beaten.
England's success in the 1966 World Cup transformed the image of footballers overnight, especially for the superstars, who became an ad man's dream.
Tina's not the best dart player in the world, but she enjoys the game while she's waiting for me. After a match, we often meet our wives for a quiet drink in the local. It's a nice, friendly place. Tina reckons I've rigged the darts. It's not true. Anyway, it's great to get together for an evening out.
Like Mr. and Mrs. Bobby Moore, looking at the local. Always the best for Georgie. 4 men's grooming aids. Real masculine. Aftershave, hairspray, talc, the lot. 4 brings out the best in a man.
I mean, I was doing everything. I did sausages, I did oranges, I did aftershave, I did whatever you can think about, I did, because they came and asked me to do it.
And how's it going? Pretty well up to date?
Yes, it's about the same amount of letters every
There's nothing
week.
you want then, just
No.
The telephone never stopped ringing with George. I mean, he was in such a demand. And really, when you think of the things we did with George, it was quite incredible.
I was taking home £3,000 a week, which was just unbelievable. I was going out and buying cars for cash.
In George Best, football and popular fashion were united.
I like to think of myself, you know, as a bit different than everybody else. You know, people come to matches and they're seeing the same, you know, short-haired and smart, well, dark suits and...
Come on, hold me tight.
I think it was that thin line, you know, we stepped over. We were a combination of music, sport, show business, media, the whole thing. And I suppose started off when we played in Portugal. I came back. I bought this big sombrero and a leather coat because I knew they were going to take my photograph. So I did it on purpose.
In London, a swinging world opened up for players.
The whole thing was a show, and Chelsea Football Club was part of it. I cut the players' hair with my whole gang from Sloane Street. We had them all in. But we were kind of close with those guys. Everybody was. They were part of that social scene.
To become part of that scene, you have to be in London, really. I think so. Because, I mean, I was in Manchester many times to see, because I was very great friends with, still am, with Georgie Best. I remember one day, I says, oh, listen, why don't you come and play for Chelsea? And he looked at me and said, Alvaro, if it's up to me, I play for nothing, provided I could come to Chelsea.
They would have been one of the clubs I would have gone to, and it would have suited me because it was close to tramps and stringfellows, so it would have been nice.
All showbiz people used to attend the matches there. And of course on the board we had Dickie Attenborough, who was a film producer and whatnot, a lovely man, Dickie.
The Chelsea scene was incredible, it really was, you know, I mean, talking to people like Raquel Welch. She was promoting a new film and she came down to Stamford Bridge. Always remember her screaming, yeah, bye RZ, and I was still playing, I'll give her a wave as she went off, but I didn't play very well. I think I got a bit of a going over from Dave Sexton, because I don't think my mind was on the game, because, I mean, she's a very attractive lady, let's be fair.
Well, in the 60s, I did all the pictures with the Beatles, Stones, all the pop stars, and then I went to Hollywood and did Sinatra, Clint Eastwood, Robert Redford, John Wayne. So I decided to do Sportsman in the same way. David Webb and his baby were both bare-chested, looking like Desperate Dan. Gordon Banks, the greatest goalkeeper in the world, was holding this rose, and it was like a mystery picture.
We used to go on the page 3 with the models, £50 each, after training. We've got up there, and it was Stephanie Miriam. Stephanie Miriam, lovely girl. Dear me. Also, we've done some silly shots, exercise shots and whatever. And he's gone, right, let's do the main ones now. And all of a sudden, wallop. Peter's mouth just fell out. It's just, and I'm going, you're trying to take photographs of you. And of course, the obvious thing that you're looking at, and all the photographs, I said, no, look, can you look away? But it was just the thing, because it was the Chelsea set.
It was amazing, the women, and it was very difficult to say no to it. I went to Alvaro's one night, and this beautiful lady walked past. And so I sent one of the waiters out, and I said, go and get her. I said, bring her back, I want to talk to her. So he's brought her back, and she's come in, she said, who are you? So I said, my name's George. I said, what did the waiter say to you? So he said, you're a friend of mine. She said, I've never been to London before, so I don't know who you are. So we sat there and we had dinner. So I said, look, so I explained to her who I was. I said, we were playing Arsenal the next day. So I said, look, if you want to come back to the hotel, and we go through all the rubbish, and get back to the hotel, I said, look, I'll book you a room, and I'm planning all this stuff. So we got back to the hotel, and Will's at the door waiting. At the time, Wilf McGuinness was the boss. I said, sorry, boss. And he went, what are you doing? I said, I can't sleep. I'm just going for a walk. He said, you dirty little... He said, you got a bird on you. So I said, no. So I've dashed back to the room. So I've called her back and I said, I can't make it. And I said, I'll see you in the morning. So we've gone through this. So we got up the next morning and he's come down and he said, you dirty little... He said, how can you do that before a game? I said, Wolf, I said, it makes me sleep. I said, some people can't relax. I said, I like relaxing with
I have seen him the night before at 2 o'clock. I thought he would never be able to get up in the morning, let alone play football. And yet, play such a football. I was stunned.
In the frozen north, Chelsea's antics were frowned upon by Don Revie, the manager of Leeds United.
We weren't allowed long hair, we weren't allowed a beard or a tash, and to this day I never wear jeans because jeans were not allowed down the ground. You had to go in and be reasonably smart.
But I think if it's a professional sport with professional athletes, and I think footballers are, then they should set the image to young schoolboys. It can't be comfortable. They can't be thinking just as clearly as they would be if they were nice and trimmed up and they looked the part and felt the part.
He always used to talk to you from time to time, well, you've got to get married, you've got to settle down. That's all he wanted you to do, because he knew if you were settled and you had a good home, that things would, you know, you'd be ready for the football. You know, you wouldn't be flying here, there and everywhere. And if there was any of the ladies or the girlfriends ever poorly, he never forgot things. He always used to send them stuff, bouquets, and if they were having babies, he never forgot anything like that.
I mean, Don was one of these that if you went out after a Wednesday night and you had a game on a Saturday, he was very upset. Had me in a couple of times because me and Billy got reported for being in the pub on a Thursday night. We used to go play dominoes in the pub.
5 and 7.57, 2 and 8.28.
And then we used to have a meal, and then he'd organised a bingo.
7 and 1, 71, 1 and 2, 12. 2 and 5, 25, 4 and 3, 43. Not again. Not again.
And it's funny, you get used to things. It was bingo and carpet balls. And you laugh about it now, but we loved it.
262 and on its own number 7.
And there was probably more arguments over carpet balls than there was when we played football.
Wembley. Arsenal set the ball rolling against Leeds in the League Cup final. It was the start of one of the most unglamorous soccer matches ever witnessed on the perfect turf of the famous stadium.
In their own dour way, Leeds were just as modern as Chelsea.
Leeds had a vital one-goal lead. Arsenal were angry and desperate to draw level. This was the result. A shameful free-for-all in the Leeds goal match.
Their ruthless dedication to victory heralded a new phase of professionalism.
I think winning became more important. There was a violent streak in it. But when you're playing for your living, the sportsmanship goes out of it very, very quickly. And you do what you can to win. If somebody's gone through with a good chance of scoring and you can pull them down, you pull them down.
You weren't there to enjoy the game, enjoy yourself. You were there to get results and to win games. Like if you kicked me, I wouldn't kick you back. Everybody else would kick you. It was one of those sort of attitudes. Protective of each other. It's about being a professional. Not only do you don't need a referee to look after you if you're a good professional.
That'd be Billy Bremner shouting to Hunter, and me in between. He's having a bad game. And then I stop, going to Billy and say, hold on, Billy, who do you think you were talking to? Talking to Hunter. Yeah, about me. No, Mr. Thomas, not about you. Clarkey up the front, he's having a bad one. I knew it was me. And many referees would have thought, oh, I've got to watch if I have a better game now. Have I got to give a bit to Leeds United?
Glory, glory, Leeds United. Glory, glory, Leeds United. Glory, glory, Leeds United. They're the greatest football team in all the land.
Without the genius of a George Best, Leeds produced one of the most technically outstanding teams Britain had ever seen.
Make the rafters ring. We've a team we can be proud of, and Don Reevy is...
In 1970, they met the irascible Chelsea Glamour Boys in the Cup final.
Blue is the colour, football is the game. We're all together, and winning is our aim. So cheer us on through the sun and rain, 'cause Chelsea is our name.
It was a nice rivalry, you know, between the two clubs. We could always do them in the league, and they could always do us. They seem to always be able to do us in the cup ties, you know.
Hate. No other word to describe it. They hated us and we hated those.
No score. And it's a goal! It's a goal! I think it's Charlton. So 5 minutes from half-time. Jackie Charlton was the scorer for Leeds. Houseman, Pewee scored! 41 minutes, and Spraker's let in a sitter. Remner to Giles. Clark, it's hit the post! A goal, Jones! Jones has done it. Now then, it's a free kick to Chelsea. Remner calling his men back. Hunter Hollins with the free kick. Hutchinson, a goal! And it's a draw in 1970. The first time since 1912. And so it's a replay at Old Trafford. Leeds to kick on, facing a very, very strong wind.
The stage was set for one of the dirtiest spectacles on record.
And Brenda letting his temper get the better of him. And, Charlton, right that out good. And, Hutchinson, right into Brenda. There was no excuse for that. Some barrel-crunching tackles going on in this match. No place for boys.
It became a battle every time we played them. And they kicked us and we kicked them.
It's Alan Clark. Hutchinson, Cook, and Osgood! Beautifully scored by Osgood, ran beautifully off the ball, Chelsea coming from behind to win. Chelsea have won it.
But at the end of it all, it was like two dinosaurs fighting the last fight to the end, and then the extinction.
Football in the 1970s seemed to promise the superstars great fame and riches. But few at that stage had any idea how to handle either.
It became like a goldfish bowl. I mean, Sundays, they had coach trips turning up, parking on my lawn, climbing over, making my goldfish, smashing down the trees. I just wanted to get away for a couple of days, so I called Sinead, who I'd met in Dublin doing a show, and I said, I just need a couple of days away. Can I come and stay with you? And we went there, and all of a sudden, within 3 days, the place was under siege.
It's at last been established that he's here, at this flat in Islington, North London. It's the home of a 22-year-old actress, Sinead Cusack, and it's known that over the last few days, she's listened to a lot of George Best's complicated and apparently incomprehensible troubles.
I used to sit there and watch the cameras outside, reporting on what I was doing and what I was eating. And the local pub would bring me sandwiches, and they were stopping them in the street and saying, like, what sort of sandwiches are you eating? I mean, it became a nightmare. So I took the easy choice. I disappeared.
George Best retired from top-flight football at the age of 27.
In London, we wanted a London George Best, I suppose. And Peter was glamorous and trendy, long hair, good-looking boy, smart, very pleasant lad, good footballer.
Marinello, £100,000 from Hibernian.
Want some whiskey in your water, sugar in your tea.
Well, Peter Marinello was typical of a sort of guy produced out of all this newfound stardom, and I remember seeing his very nice face, very nice guy, dressed in all this 1970s gear, and I really felt sorry for him. This guy's not going to make it.
I was quite amazed with all the hullabaloo and all the promotion that my signing caused.
I think I'm almost choking from the smell of stale perfume.
The comparisons with George Best and everything was just built up unbelievably, you know. They sneaked me into Highbury when I signed. The papers just seemed, it was front page headlines.
Open up the window, sucker. Let me catch my breath. Mama told me not to come. Mama told me not to come.
Probably read in the papers that Peter Marinello has just been signed to Arsenal for the fantastic fee of £100,000, and we're very lucky to have him with us here on Top of the Pops to present tonight's prizes. So over to you, Peter.
Hello. Well, you've been chosen as the best dancer here. What's your name?
Linda.
Linda. Well, congratulations. I'd like to present you with the records.
Thank you very much.
Hello. What's your name?
Celia.
Oh, your eyes are fabulous.
Thank you.
I'd like to present you with these records. And,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much there, Peter.
And then there was the mail catalogues. They wanted me to wear all these clothes, and I used to get some letters, and the letters I used to receive, you know, they were from girls and they were from men as well, because I used to wear all this gear, you know. It made me look a bit feminine. It was just like snapping your finger and you got it, you know.
Mama told me not to come. Mama told me not to come.
I suppose it went to my head a little bit, and I neglected my training.
Number 12, Blankenberg. Oh, in trouble, Marinello! He's got a real chance! Oh! Kennedy and Marinello. What a blow to his morale.
And he found it hard to live up to the title of the second George Best. Having been left alone, he might have made it. His talent was burned out very quickly because of that.
I got involved with people that I knew and trusted, but I got ripped off. I went into liquidation. I lost all what I earned in the football, so it was easy come, easy go, I suppose.
A precious few did manage to make the most of their assets and amass fame and fortune outside football.
Francis Lee of Manchester City in England, an outstandingly gifted forward, lives in a 17th century Lancashire cottage which he's had expensively converted.
The greatest thing for the game, I think, was when the maximum wage was abolished. Chaps became more dedicated to it. They thought, well, I can earn a lot of money at it, probably as much as I could in all my working life in another job.
The guys who put the time in and really tried and really worked hard have all benefited.
But quite apart from all the football, you've diversified, haven't you? You've got quite a few outside interests going for you.
Yeah, I've got, with my partner, we've got a laundrette, and we've got a ladies' hairdressing shop.
I always had a business running whilst I was involved in football, because my father told me, it's pointless just hanging around doing nothing, you know. You may as well get yourself a job, and I was brought up to work hard, and I always did. Then eventually we started paper business about 1970, and just built it up from there.
By the end of the 70s, even the superstar had learned how to handle fame and fortune.
I've earned about, I think, around about £500,000 a year. We're just trying to build a security for the future, for the baby, and whatever little Kikis come along afterwards, you know, that's sort of our aim, really.
I'm gonna try with help from my friend.
English clubs ruled Europe. Pity about the national side. BBC Two kicking and screaming further into the 70s and into the 80s. Monday at the same time, 2:45.